Hey everyone, this is Corey with Stafford CDC. Today let's take a look at the Kizer Sparrow. This one is designed by Blackbird Knives. You can see the logo there. You can also see the Sparrow written right there, and the code for this knife, which is V3628C1. Now, this is in 154 cm. This is actually a black micarta. I do believe it doesn't look like there are other greens, so I'm going to say it's black. It does have some green tinge to it. Black hardware, of course, black coated blade and liners as well. You can see it's got this funky design lasered onto the blade, kind of like a Sanmai look. Sanmai is not the word I'm looking for, but it's going to come to me at some point. There's a term for this when it's done with clay, when you heat up you clay the spine and quench the edge. It's like a differential heat treat thing, and it's slipping my mind. It's called a hamon. That's what it's called. It's kind of like a hamon line almost, or giving you the look of like a laminated type of steel, which would be like the Sanmai I mentioned previously. But of course, this is just 154 cm, and that is just a laser pattern that has been put on this blade, and it is identical on both sides. So just reversed, of course, because it's starting from right to left or left to right, depending on how you want to look at it, and it's the opposite way on this side. This is a pretty small knife. Now I have large size hands. See, this is like a 3 and a little bit of a pinky knife. If this had a finger choil, I could get all 4 on, but it doesn't, so we're going to just say it's a little bit on the smaller side. This has a front flipper. I'm sorry, not a front flipper, but a rear flipper that works pretty well. It's angled nicely. The detent's pretty good on this. You just got to make sure you don't slip off of it. Or if you're just pushing this into the knife, kind of the push button style, this works really well. But if you're doing the light switch, you might slide off of this, as this jimping is very non-aggressive. You can kind of see it's stepped down on the edges there. Makes this not very grippy at all. Lock bar access is okay. There's a little bit here. It works fine, but it's just not going to be extremely accessible. So something to keep in mind, certainly. Of course, you have the opening hole too, where you can reverse flick. If you're using your pointer finger, you might have some trouble. Middle finger, not an issue at all. And of course, being that it's normally called a thumb hole, you can thumb flick with it as well. This is a design that reminds me of a lot of different knives. It's got like some DNA of everything in it. Largely it reminds me of the CRKT Polar. Kind of have that swell in the handle and then this kind of sheep's footy blade. And that's kind of like the vibes I get from this, but it's like a super modernized, upgraded version with the 154 cm, the flipper, and the opening hole combination. You get some multiple deployment options, and the contoured micarta is nice and comfy. The handle doesn't quite work for me as with my hands, but it's just a hand size thing, not necessarily a design thing. Kind of have to squeeze my 2 big fingers into here, and then the ring and the pinky can hang out. I can get all 4 on, but it's much comfier if I kind of drop everything down, which then I end up with a little bit of hot spotting from the clip. So it's kind of all over the place for me. With smaller hands, though, I think you'd really find this knife to be quite comfortable. And this does have a very short grind, which is an unfortunate thing. I wish they would have done a full flat grind on this, or like 80% of the way up the blade, but this is only about 60% of the blade. And due to that, you get to this full thickness of probably 0.12 or so very quickly. And this overall just ends up dragging a little bit through material. If it was a little bit thinner, or had a taller grind, this would be performing a lot better. But as it stands, this does not get to the thinnest edge on the planet, and that full thickness comes up very fast when making cuts. So you start and then you kind of slow down. You start and then you slow down. You start and you slow down. That happens as you reach this full thickness here, and especially as the cardboard junk builds up, this knife ends up getting more and more difficult to pass through thicker material. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're looking about getting one of these. Overall, though, I mean, it's an interesting design. It's just not for me. It's a little, like I said, on the small side. The ergos don't quite work for me, and the grind kind of kills it for me. Ergos are something that, like, if there's a comfy way to hold it, I can kind of just only hold it that way. But the grind being a little thick, just for me, that's a deal breaker on a knife. I'm looking for performance, ergonomics, aesthetics, kind of an all-the-above combination, and this misses multiple marks for me. So, unfortunately, the Sparrow here from Kizer isn't something for me, but I could see it being a nice knife for somebody who wants to maybe have a little bit thicker edge for some abuse and some smaller hands than me, so that handle works out for them. You know, it's a well-built knife. Kizer does a great job, but ultimately just not my jam, not my kind of thing. Just some choices made by the size and the grind. Other than that, it's a pretty good knife. Detent's good, and if you got smaller hands, you'll probably like this one. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.